In 2011, wrestling fans witnessed a rivalry that might have flown under the radar of history, but is one that deserves our attention. Christian and Randy Orton would find themselves embroiled in one of the most intense and emotionally charged feuds of the modern era. This wasn't just a battle for championship gold. It was a clash of destinies, a tale of friendship, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of dreams. So, make sure to listen to the voices in your head as we roll this one back with a rewind. Welcome to the Feud Rewind. I'm your host, Benza Lance. One of my favorite aspects of this podcast is being able to relive the classic wrestling drama of yesteryear. Oftentimes we can overlook rivalries in the moment and take for granted the stories that have been laid out in front of us. The 2011 feud between Christian and Randy Orton, in my opinion, is one that sort of gets lost in the sauce when it was actually happening. So, like with many of our feuds that we've rewound, we figured this one was worthy enough for rewinding. For a little bit more of a backstory on Randy Orton, you can revisit our somewhat abbreviated episode 8 featuring his feud versus Daniel Bryan. For Christian, let's take a moment to appreciate the long and winding road that brought Christian to this pivotal moment in his career. Growing up in Canada, Christian would form a close childhood friendship with Adam Copeland, who we would know as Edge. The two dreamed of making it big in the wrestling world, spending countless hours watching tapes and practicing moves in their backyards. Christian's professional journey began in the late 90s on the Canadian independent circuit. He honed his craft in small promotions, developing the charisma and in-ring skills that would later make him a fan favorite. It was during this time that he and Edge had caught the eye of WWE officials, leading to their signing in 1998. Debuting as part of the Brood, a vampire-themed stable led by Gangrel, Christian quickly found his footing in the WWE. But it was his partnership with Edge that truly launched him into stardom. The two real-life best friends formed one of the most exciting tag teams of the Attitude Era. Their TLC matches against the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys are still talked about to this day, and rightfully so, setting a new standard for tag team wrestling. Despite their success as a team, winning the WWE Tag Team Championships on multiple occasions, Christian often found himself in Edge's shadow. When the team split in 2001, many wondered if Christian could stand on his own. Not of any of his own fault, of course, but tag teams almost historically have one partner who seems destined for single stardom, while the former partner can be left behind, so to speak. While having a partner as magnetic and charismatic as Edge, it would be almost a fool's errand to think that Christian would be able to ascend the ladder like his friend would. Regardless, the following years saw Christian carve out a niche for himself as a singles competitor. He captured the Intercontinental Championship and the European Championship, establishing himself as a solid mid-card performer. His Captain Charisma persona resonated with the fans, showcasing his natural charm and mic skills. However, the main event scene remained somewhat elusive. While Edge skyrocketed to World Championship status, Christian found himself stuck in a cycle of start and stop pushes. This led to his departure from the WWE in 2005, seeking to reinvent himself and show that he was worth his medal in TNA wrestling. In TNA, he would morph into a new character named Christian Cage, and finally would have a chance to shine as a world champion. He would capture the NWA World Heavyweight Championship twice, proving that he could indeed carry a promotion as its top star. These years were crucial in building Christian's confidence and cementing his status as a main event player. Christian returned to WWE in 2009, but again found himself struggling to break into that top tier. Despite fan support and constantly strong performances, the World Championship continued to elude him. He came close several times, most notably in a ladder match against Alberto Del Rio at TLC 2010, but always fell just short. This brings us to 2011, and the landscape of WWE is shifting. It's April 15th, and Edge, the rated R superstar and one of the most decorated champions in history, has just been forced to retire due to neck injuries.
It's really in-depth surgery, but because of that surgery, I knew that I was wrestling on borrowed time from that point on. So fast forward, and the last little while, I've been in a lot of pain. I've been losing feeling in my arms. So I passed strength tests and all of those things, and I made it through WrestleMania. But the WWE wanted me to go get more tests, and thankfully I did, because the MRIs showed that I have to retire.
At this time, Edge had just successfully retained his World Heavyweight Championship against Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 27. His sudden departure leaves a void in the main event scene and, more importantly, in the heart of his best friend and former tag team partner Christian, who was in Edge's corner at WrestleMania. Christian himself is now a seasoned veteran with nearly 2 decades of experience, and he was finding himself at a crossroads. What stood before him was more than just an opportunity. It was possibly his last chance to prove that he belonged at the top, to show the world that he was more than just Edge's sidekick or a reliable mid-card performer. With that context in mind, we'll be kicking off this episode in 2011 at Extreme Rules, where Christian's moment of triumph and the beginning of his intense feud with Randy Orton was about to unfold. Our arena was set for a collision course between these two seasoned veterans, each with something to prove and a burning desire to be the face of SmackDown. But as we'll see, the path to glory would be far from smooth, setting the stage for one of the most emotionally charged rivalries in recent WWE history. Extreme Rules takes place on May 1st, 2011 in Tampa, Florida. In a ladder match for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship, Christian faces off against Alberto Del Rio. This bout is a brutal affair, with both men putting their bodies on the line for the coveted title. As Christian climbed the ladder, reaching for his dreams, who should appear but Edge himself? In a moment that brought tears to the eyes of fans worldwide, Edge helped his best friend retrieve the championship, fulfilling a lifelong ambition for Christian.
For the opportunity to rule WWE, the opportunity to become world champion.
Alberto Del Rio is a walk away from his...
Take your time, savor it, Del Rio. No one can stop you. Savor it, take in the moment,
Christian,
take in the spectacle,
Christian,
take it all in.
Do something, Christian. You gotta get up.
Del Rio just a few rungs away. Nothing can stop Del Rio. Edge! Edge is still here. Edge is retired. Oh my!
Here we go.
Why is Edge here? Get out of here! You should be collecting your annual paycheck somewhere. What are you doing out here? The rated R superstar here
Christian
to see his best friend Christian become the world champion.
And trust me, I know what this feels like. It's the best feeling you're ever going to have in your professional career. And Christian has finally done it. He is now the world champion.
And the new world heavyweight champion, Christian.
Give it up for it, guys. Let's congratulate Christian on finally pulling it off. Finally winning the big one. Now he is the man.
It was a feel-good moment for the ages. Christian had finally done it. He was the World Heavyweight Champion. The underdog finally had his day, and it seemed like a fitting tribute to Edge's legacy. But as we all know, in the world of professional wrestling, happiness is often short-lived.
Hey, this is Ben with Feud Rewind with a quick word from our first unofficial sponsor. Water. You need some. I need some. We all need some. We're made of it. Guess what? It comes in a bunch of different varieties. Hot, cold, frozen. You can get it flavored. You can get it plain. With bubbles, no bubbles, out of your tap, out of a bottle, out of a box. The possibilities are endless. Regardless, you need some. Before we get started, go get a glass. I'm going to get one too. We'll meet back here and start the show. Thank you so much. Water.
Voices in my head, they count for me, they understand, they talk to me.
Enter Randy Orton, the Apex Predator. Fresh off a stint on Raw, Orton had been drafted to SmackDown, bringing his cold-blooded intensity and championship pedigree to the blue brand. With Edge's retirement, Orton saw an opportunity to reclaim his spot at the top of the mountain. Just 2 days later, on the May 6th episode of SmackDown, everything would change. Riding high on his championship victory, Christian was confronted by Randy Orton. The Viper, ever the opportunist, challenged Christian to put his newly won title on the line that very night. Despite some hesitation, Christian accepted, feeling confident in his abilities and wanting to prove himself as a fighting champion. What followed was a match that would set the tone for their entire rivalry. Christian and Orton battled back and forth in a highly competitive contest. Just when it seemed Christian would retain his title, Orton struck with an RKO out of nowhere, pinning Christian and becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion.
The RKO! The icy snare of the Viper! RKO coming up, Christian counters!
Oh, wait a minute.
Orton stunned! Christian's got him now. And back and forth once again they go. Christian again. Oh, RKO! And he got it! Randy Orton lateral press, and we have a new champion!
Christian went to the well once, too many, and got caught.
World Heavyweight Champion!
In the span of 5 days, 5 due to this being a tape-delayed episode of SmackDown, Christian had reached the pinnacle of his career, only to have it snatched away in the blink of an eye. The look of devastation on Christian's face told the entire story. This wasn't just about losing a title. It was about losing a dream he had chased for his entire career. The palpable feeling of loss was both tragic and infuriating. This moment was the spark that ignited one of the most heated rivalries of the modern era. Christian, feeling cheated out of his moment in the sun, would stop at nothing to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. Orton, on the other hand, saw himself as the rightful champion, viewing Christian's brief reign as nothing more than a fluke. The battle lines were clearly drawn, and the WWE Universe was in for a summer they'd never forget. As we move into the heart of the Christian and Orton rivalry, it's important to note the stark contrast between these two superstars. Randy Orton is a third-generation superstar, having been groomed for success from day one. He's a natural in the ring with a pedigree that commanded respect. Christian, on the other hand, had clawed his way up from the indies, was always the underdog, always fighting to prove himself. The dynamic played out in their interactions following Orton's title win. Christian, feeling robbed of his moment, demanded a rematch, Orton, ever the cocky champion, agreed, but not without throwing a few verbal jabs. He questioned Christian's ability to hang with him, insinuating that his friend Edge had carried Christian throughout his entire career.
That being said, I also wanted to come out here and I wanted to congratulate the brand new World Heavyweight Champion, Randy Orton. Hey, peeps. Trust me, Randy didn't do anything that I wouldn't have done myself. And I want to say that I'm really looking forward to our rematch in 2 weeks at Over the Limit. And I have a feeling, actually I have a really good feeling that this time things are going to turn out just a little bit differently. Because if I took anything away from last week's SmackDown, it's this. That a 100% prepared Christian can without a doubt beat Randy Orton.
Their rematch at Over the Limit 2011 was a technical masterpiece. Taking place on May 22nd, 2011 from the Key Arena in Seattle, the sixth match on our card would see both men pulling out all the stops, showcasing why they were two of the best in the business. The near 17-minute match ended when Christian attempted a kill switch, but Orton reversed this into an RKO on Christian to retain the title. This loss only fueled Christian's obsessions. He began to show a different side of himself, a darker, more desperate version. He would do anything to get his title back, even if it meant potentially compromising his own principles. After losing his rematch against Orton at Over the Limit, Christian challenged Orton to another match for the World Heavyweight Championship on the following episode of SmackDown, but was interrupted by Mark Henry and Sheamus. SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long then announced a triple threat number one contenders match between Christian, Henry, and Sheamus, with the winner facing Orton for the title the following week. Sheamus won the match after the referee missed Christian's pinfall on Sheamus due to Orton's interference. The following week, Christian asked to be added to the title match that night, but Long instead made him the special guest referee. Christian would help Orton retain the championship, but struck him with the title belt afterwards, a righteous comeuppance for Orton. The next week, Christian again challenged Orton to a World Heavyweight Championship match at Capital Punishment, which Orton accepted. Later that same night, Sheamus defeated Orton in a non-title, no disqualification match after Christian interfered and hit Orton with the title belt again. On the June 17th episode of SmackDown, Sheamus faced Christian with the stipulation that Sheamus would be added to the championship match at Capital Punishment if he won, but Christian would end up winning. After the match, Orton, who was at ringside, attempted to attack Christian, but Christian escaped. Instead, Orton punted Sheamus in the head, sending a message to Christian. Christian ultimately invoked his rematch clause for the Capital Punishment pay-per-view. However, this time he would add a stipulation. If Orton got himself disqualified, or if there was any outside interference, Christian would win the title. It was a smart move, seemingly designed to prevent any shenanigans. Taking place on June 19th from the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C., Capital Punishment would see Orton once again defend his World Heavyweight Championship against Christian. In this bout, Orton wrestled a very clean match, avoiding any actions that would lead to disqualifications. In a hard-fought battle, Orton would once again emerge victorious. This match wasn't without some controversy, however, as Christian's foot was obviously underneath the rope during the pinfall, but the referee clearly didn't see it. Orton retained, but the seed of doubt was definitely planted. The frustration was evident on Christian's face. He had come so close, yet again, only to fall short. In the following weeks, we saw a dramatic shift in Christian's character. The turn began subtly, with Christian showing signs of desperation in some of his promos. He emphasized how long he waited for his opportunity, how much he had sacrificed. This resonated with fans who had long supported him as an underdog. But as his losses to Orton began to mount, the desperation took a darker edge.
You know, I have to be honest with you, I was curious to see what kind of reaction I got when I came out here tonight. If you cheered for me, then that means you got it. But as I look around the SmackDown audience tonight, as I listen to you, as I look at your faces, I'm convinced that some of you, that most of you, maybe all of you, you don't quite get it. Which is why, I'm going to tell you this right now, which is why I am through with all of you. Why I'm through with all of my so-called peeps. You know something? I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Actually, I'm not sure if I want to talk to any of you ever again.
Christian began to claim that the fans had never truly supported him, that they had always seen him as second best to Edge. He accused them of hypocrisy, saying they claimed to love underdogs but turned on him the moment he showed ambition. This blurring of reality and kayfabe added depth to the storyline, making fans question their own reactions. Captain Charisma went on tirades about how he was cheated out of victory. He was to be given one last chance, but this time Christian came prepared with a lawyer and added a new clause to the contract. Specifically, if Orton got himself disqualified, then the title would change hands. The fan favorite, the underdog everyone had been rooting for, had truly changed. His desperation to reclaim the World Heavyweight Championship had driven him to extremes. Before this match, Christian would go through great lengths to get under Orton's skin. This culminating in Orton finally snapping on Kane just weeks prior to the pay-per-view. This new stipulation and the fiery blood simmering between these two would come to a head at Money in the Bank. It's July 17th, 2011. The WWE Universe are on the edge of their seats in the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Now, if you remember, Christian and Orton had been at each other's throats at this point for months. This match was the boiling point of their rivalry, and you could feel the tension in the arena that night. Both men knew what was on the line, and believe me, they both brought their A-game. In the show's fifth match, Randy Orton defended his World Heavyweight Championship against Christian with the stipulation that Christian would win the title if Orton was disqualified or if there was any poor officiating. The match itself clocks in about 15 minutes, and let me tell you, every second is action-packed. The fans are going wild and for good reason. The in-ring storytelling is off the charts. Christian opens the bout by bringing a steel chair into the ring and trying to goad Orton into getting himself disqualified. Orton would ultimately balk and throw the chair to the floor. Christian at one point performs his signature kill switch, but Orton kicks out of the pinfall at the 2 count. As Orton is preparing to perform his signature RKO, Christian would spit in his face. This would enrage Orton to such a degree that he would kick Christian in the groin, and in the process get himself disqualified.
To stay away from a possible pinfall. And now Randy Orton, the Viper, coiling. Ready to strike, went for the RKO, the little head pump, and Christian begs off. Christian, I think, just spat in the face of Orton. Without a doubt. And now Randy Orton. Randy Orton's got to be careful here. Remember the no disqualification rule. The referee is counting. Count of three here. Orton's got to get off Christian. And the referee's showing a bit of leeway there.
Randy, you got to calm down, Randy. You got to calm down.
Oh, and a blatant low blow. Ladies and gentlemen, is this what I think it is? Is this what I think it is?
The winner of this match as a result of a disqualification and the new World Heavyweight Champion, Christian!
As per the pre-match stipulation, this means that Christian becomes our new champion. The July 29th edition of SmackDown opens with WWE COO Triple H addressing the state of both the WWE and the World Heavyweight Championships. Cue the World Heavyweight Champion himself, Christian. Triple H doesn't take kindly to being interrupted by Christian, and a verbal confrontation between the two leads to a blockbuster announcement from the boss. At SummerSlam, the world title match between Christian and Randy Orton will be a no-holds-barred match, which is essentially the same thing as a no DQ match. Or in layman's terms, the exact opposite stipulation that Orton had for their match at Money in the Bank. The weasel known as Christian will now have to beat Orton by pinning his shoulders to the mat. SummerSlam 2011 arrived, and the anticipation for this match was at a fever pitch. The no-holds-barred stipulation meant that there would be no disqualifications, no countouts, and no mercy. August 14th, 2011. The Staples Center in Los Angeles is our canvas for the evening. From the opening bell, it was clear that this wasn't just another wrestling match. This was war. Christian and Orton brawled throughout the arena, using everything they can get their hands on as weapons. Chairs, tables, and even the steel steps became instruments of destruction. One of the more memorable moments came when Christian trapped Orton's leg in a chair and stomped on it from the top rope, a move that echoed the brutality of their feud. Orton, showcasing his toughness, fought through the pain and continued the match. As this battle rages on, it's becoming increasingly clear that both men are willing to go to extreme lengths to walk out as the champion. Christian in particular seems almost possessed, his desperation palpable as he threw everything he had at Orton. The climax of the match came when Christian speared Orton through a table set up in the corner of the ring. For a moment, it seemed like Christian might finally reclaim his title. But Orton, living up to his moniker of the Apex Predator, somehow kicked out.
Orton has used tables and garbage cans, kendo sticks.
Carnage inside the ring and out.
And there is one last weapon at the disposal of the Viper. The Apex Predator of the WWE is in a feeding frenzy. Oh, and Christian! It's RKO! Oh, my Lord!
On those steel steps!
Christian RKO out of the steel steps. Orton into the cover. Randy Orton is the new world champion.
Here's your winner and the new World Heavyweight Champion.
In the end, it was Orton who emerged victorious. After countering Christian's attempt at using the title belt as a weapon, Orton hit an RKO onto the steel steps for the win. The brutal, nearly 25-minute war had finally come to a conclusion, with Orton retaining his championship. For most of our intent for this week, this might be considered the culmination of the feud. However, we do get a nice little post-feud bow to tie this all up. On the August 29th episode of SmackDown, we have a special guest referee. Bret Hart announced that Christian would get one final rematch against Orton in a steel cage match on the August 30th episode of SmackDown. With his World Heavyweight Championship once more on the line, Randy Orton fought tooth and nail with a hard-charging and determined Christian.
What an encounter this has been for the World Heavyweight Championship. Randy Orton and Christian embroiled in a battle. The only way to win, escape the cage or by pinfall or submission. We are live on Super SmackDown in Wichita tonight, and the atmosphere is electric.
And you talking about a main event tonight? This has been unbelievable. Talking about off the hook.
Look at Orton just bashing Christian's head off the steel cage. Oh, now. Oh, no. No way. No way. Yes, way. No way. Not off the top rope. Yeah, off the top.
Oh, my God.
An RKO from Randy Orton. Christian's jaw, his face, his skull bouncing off the mat. Randy Orton hooks the leg in a hard-fought victory for the Viper.
As both superstars battled atop the cage and then the top rope, history repeats itself. Orton hits an RKO out of nowhere to secure the victory, retaining his title and ending Christian's hopes of reclaiming the championship. The look of devastation on Christian's face told the whole story. He had given everything that he had, but it still wasn't enough. As we look back on the Christian-Orton rivalry of 2011, it's clear that this was more than just a series of matches. It was a story of ambition, desperation, and the lengths people will go to achieve their dreams. For Christian, this feud represented both the highest and lowest points of his career. He finally achieved his dream of becoming World Heavyweight Champion, only to have it taken away almost immediately. The loss drove him to change his entire persona, turning his back on the fans who had supported him for years. Christian's heel turn was a masterclass in character development. What made it particularly compelling was its gradual nature and psychological depth. This wasn't a sudden betrayal or an overnight change. It was a slow burn that reflected the real frustration and bitterness of a man who felt the world was against him. We saw Christian start to bend the rules in matches, grabbing ropes during pins or using underhanded tactics. He justified these actions in post-match interviews, claiming he was just doing what he needed to do to win. The moral ambiguity made his character more complex and interesting. The full heel turn, when it did come, felt like a natural progression rather than a shock swerve. Christian's attack on Orton with a low blow was the culmination of weeks of building frustration. His subsequent promos revealed a man who felt betrayed not just by circumstances, but by the fans themselves. What made the heel turn particularly effective was that it also didn't feel forced. Many fans could understand his frustration, even if they didn't condone the actions. This created a compelling dynamic where audiences were torn before the long-standing affection for Christian and their disapproval of his new attitude. In many ways, Christian's heel turn was reminiscent of Rocky Maivaia's transformation into The Rock in the late 90s. Both were babyfaces who had turned on the fans after feeling unappreciated, and both found new levels of success and character depth as heels. For Orton, this rivalry cemented his status as one of the top stars in the WWE. His ability to consistently deliver in high-pressure situations and his knack for hitting that RKO at the most opportune moments became legendary. The feud with Christian showed off a different side of Orton as well. A much more vulnerable champion who had to fight tooth and nail to keep his title. The Christian and Orton rivalry also gave us some of the best matches of 2011. Their encounters were consistently praised for their in-ring quality, storytelling, and intensity. The Over the Limit and SummerSlam matches in particular are often cited as some of the best of both men's careers. Perhaps more importantly, the feud showed the WWE Universe the power of long-term storytelling. Over the course of several months, we saw Christian's gradual descent from beloved underdog to desperate heel. We witnessed Orton's evolution from opportunistic challenger to battle-hardened champion. Every match, every promo, every interaction between these two built upon what came before, creating a rich, layered narrative that kept fans invested week after week. In the years since the 2011 rivalry, both Christian and Randy Orton have gone to have successful careers. Orton remained steadfast to the WWE, winning multiple championships and engaging in high-profile feuds. Christian himself has gone on to become the father we've always needed and wanted over in All Elite Wrestling. But for many fans, the summer of 2011 remains the defining moment of both men's careers. It was the time where two veteran performers were at the top of their game, colliding in a perfect storm of stellar in-ring action and compelling storytelling. The rivalry serves as a masterclass in how to build and execute a long-term feud in professional wrestling. It had all the elements: high stakes, personal animosity, character development, and top-notch in-ring action. To Randy Orton and Christian, thank you both so much for the memories. And with that, this brings us to the end of the rewind for the week. I appreciate you spending some time with me to relive some classic wrestling drama. You know to do that. Follow, like, subscribe, and share gimmick. We're on the socials as Feud Rewind, and the email is feudrewind@gmail.com. Fellow fan, I am your host, Ben Zalance, and I'll see you next week when we roll it back with another feud to rewind.